Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Bodacious Rant. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. I know I was able to stop at seconds because all the turkey, the stuffing, and our family does ham. I don't know if everybody does ham on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Because I mean, well, everybody's is different, so it doesn't matter. I just hope everybody's good, everybody enjoy themselves, and don't go crazy on Black Friday. Be careful out there, seriously. But we are talking about a show that recently finished last Saturday, to be specific, and it is easily one of the best animated shows in recent years, and on Netflix. And if you haven't guessed it with our thumbnail and the title, it's Arcane, both seasons 1 and 2. This is going to be a full seasonal, full show spoiler essentially, because it's a mini series, only had 2 seasons.
Yeah. And we never reviewed the first season, so can give our thoughts there.
Yeah, it was one of those things I didn't catch on until, recently, and then also let's just wait till it finishes up. So, to be full disclosure on that one. So we'll give our rantings and our general thoughts on the series before, and then after we'll do spoilers, so you guys can stick around for a little bit longer. So this show is based on a very popular PC game called League of Legends. Oh my god, I can't talk. By Riot Games. I have a friend that used to work there. So it's definitely one of those things. I don't have a PC, so I'm not really into PC games as much. And it's one of those. I don't know what kind of.
It's a MOBA, like a multiplayer online battle arena.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking, because it is like an arena style where you choose your character to try and it's very strategy like combat kind of game. So
and you have your hero characters, which are a lot of the characters in the show, and they have their abilities, and you're fighting for I don't know what exactly, but I did have roommates that played it a while back, and they were really addicted to that game, and it looked cool, but I never owned a PC either.
I mean, I've seen it in action because I like I said, my friend who worked there, she invited me to one of their little like in-game, like in-department kind of matches, and it looked kind of cool, especially once you have your crew playing together. But anyways, so this show is a multi-genre show where it's fantasy, sci-fi, animation, all kinds of stuff. But it takes place in a fictional city called Piltover, in which it's very society-based, and just a couple main characters, Vi and Powder, orphans who are struggling to just find their way in life. And in doing so, they go on a crazy different paths of, hero, villainy, very gray moral stuff. So this show, for me personally, it was a bit of a grind to get through at first, just because I love animation, I like this kind of stuff, but I think because I knew it was associated with a video game, it was very hard to get into and try and figure out what characters what in the game and stuff. So I did a little research on that. It was a bit of intimidating, but once I shut that off and got through the first few episodes, this is a great story just to watch. Even if you don't play the games, honestly, it was so great to look. The voice acting by Haley Steinfeld, Ella Purnell, and I can't think of anybody super popular. I think those are like the main 2 big actors associated with this show.
Mm-hmm.
Their stuff was great. They had great chemistry and their voices together, and the way it was animated, it's very similar to DreamWorks, like Puss in Boots, and what's another movie like Wild Robot, where it's a blend of 3D but 2D at the same time, 3D textures in 2D looking format. And yeah, with all that being said, I was wrestling with it, but after the final episode, I'm gonna give the series a hard 5 out of 5, because it was just so well done, such great storytelling, so many different themes behind it, like redemption, family, society, a lot of great stuff. So I really enjoyed it, and Byrne was definitely the one to help push me get into it, so thanks to him as well. Byrne, what did you think of the series?
Yeah, look, for me, this is one of the easiest 5 out of 5s I could give. Just from top to bottom, I just absolutely loved this series, both season 1 and season 2. And again, just like you, I had really no real familiarity with these characters outside of knowing that they're from League of Legends. And again, I really don't know too much about that game outside of just watching people play it. But like you mentioned, the story they tell here is so mature and so deep. It's something that we really don't get in a lot of animation projects because, they tend to sort of lean more towards the kids side. But with, the great like resurgence that we've gotten lately in more adult style animation, this one I think it really stands at the top with what they've been able to do with these 2 seasons of TV, with the great character depth that they give each and every one of these characters, where you think they're going to be a certain way and they have their particular archetypes, but they go further than that, and they really mine these characters for all the emotion and all the storytelling that they have, and not to mention just the animation here, like you mentioned, by Studio Fortiche. It's, I think, a French studio. Just probably like the pinnacle of what this style of animation is. And then we've seen it in the more recent DreamWorks movies and a little bit in the Spider-Verse movies too. But I think for here, it's just, this is what the peak looks like with what they're able to do. I mean, when the phrase gets thrown around, every frame is a painting. This is the thing that comes to mind for me, where you can just pause at any point in the show, and it's just an incredible like tapestry of just beautiful images and color and just great framing of all these shots that they have. And it's just, again, it's just one of the things that it feels like this is animation at the top of its game currently. And that paired with the great emotional and epic storytelling with all these mature themes that are all interweaving with these great characters. It's just fantastic TV from top to bottom. And I couldn't recommend it any more, to anyone, because, again, this is just one of my favorite pieces of media in recent memory. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, easiest 5 out of 5 I could give. I don't know if they're going to do any more of this particular show. I don't know if they said that this is kind of like the full story that we're getting with these characters. But I would just love for them to continue on in this world with maybe other characters or something. Because, man, it's just such great stuff to just... it feels like I shouldn't get this. Like I don't deserve something like this because this is just that good.
Well, especially from Netflix, where they make so many movies and shows, and it's so much to watch. But it's like I read up on some of them, and majority of them aren't really good. But animation-wise, they've been killing it. Like we got this Blue Eye Samurai last year, which I know we didn't review, but man, that was easily one of the best shows, animated shows for me at least of all time. And Cyberpunk Edgerunners, which I still have yet to watch, and Castlevania. But this is definitely one that's a little bit more friendly to all ages, where Castlevania definitely super adult and violent and stuff like that. Blue Eye Samurai, I would say, definitely on more mature side, adult side. So yeah, 5 out of 5 from both of us, everyone. We're gonna get into the spoilers a little bit. Nothing too crazy, but we're just gonna talk about our favorite aspects, so which will be spoiler-ish. So if you haven't watched all of it, come on back after and join in with us on that. But if you like, as always, if you do like the video, please give us that thumbs up, ring the bell for notifications, and of course subscribe to keep growing the Rant community. Again, thankful for all of you. So let's get to it. So not only was the voice acting great, but dude, I kind of have seen some of the like League of Legends like character design, and some of it's I feel like it's very anime themed, like where it's a little bit more over the top and stuff. I think this show did a perfect blend of like, almost like how I said like sci-fi. I would say this is very much like steampunk-esque, with a lot of the designs, the clothing, some of the tech involved in that the characters use, and Vi and Jinx are like Jinx aka slash Powder, easily some of the greatest like dual characters. Like the even though they look very different with color wise and what they wear, it's almost like they're two sides of the same coin, especially with the storytelling. So I think that's what after like the first 3 episodes where they were like kids and stuff, once they kind of found they started their paths of like maybe being on the hero side, maybe being on the villain side, that's where I got really interested with it, and that's where I think they really killed it.
Yeah, the Jinx and Vi storyline from beginning to end was really the emotional core, I feel like, of this series, where they start off innocently enough as kids, as these adoptive sisters, and through the course of the story, by episode 3 of the first season, they're launched in 2 very different directions, and you see like throughout that season and even season 2 in particular, they're trying to reconcile that fact of the reason they were split apart, and that Vi's sort of carrying around that guilt still of abandoning of Powder at a very pivotal moment in her life, and they're both just trying to pick up those pieces. And at this point it just feels like it's a little bit too late, and Jinx sort of recognizes that. So her Vi trying to save her, and then Jinx saving her back, and just the back and forth of them being on the same side but on different sides. These characters at the core really do love each other. It's just the circumstances of the world that they live in just keeps driving them apart. That's just one of those things that's just really tragic about the show. I think the show in general is just very tragic with what happens with these characters. But yeah, that they're sort of back and forth between being on the same side and being on different sides, but still having that love for each other as sisters is just one of the best pieces of storytelling within the show, and I think really cements like the bigger conflict that we see in this world. It just kind of brings it down into a personal level. So I thought they did really great with that, and it sort of mirrors that sort of their story with Victor and Jace, I think, too.
Well, I mean, yeah, that how I was talking about, like, what the themes I love of it, like we have, and like how you kind of brought up the point that, like, the main story, like the main conflict is, you know, the race for technology. Essentially, it's very like Oppenheimer-esque, in which once Jace finds kind of masters the hex tech, it literally is like something that's supposed to be good and help people. Of course, there's going to be people that are like, no, we have to develop stuff to protect ourselves, and in doing so, we have to have weapons. Like, got to carry the bigger stick. So I really like that they did that very well. And then with, like, Jason, Victor, Vi, and Powder, Echo, and Heimerdinger, we get a lot more other storylines that blend well together, but also have their own individual themes to a certain extent. Like Vi and Powder, with essentially it's never too late to change. And even though they were essentially in their ways of like hero and villain, but at the same time it was very great in the things they did for other characters around them and stuff like that. They had their ups and downs like any character would. And so some could make the argument that it's so inconsistent, like with all these characters are constantly changing stuff, and like, well, you have to think about it. They are younger characters, but even then, it's like that's the problem. It's like it doesn't have to be just a straight line. It is all over the place, but in the end, by the time we get to the end of the show, we find out where they really stood, and in the end, they stayed family. I love that line that Ella Purnell says in the last episodes. Like, even I'm always with you, even when we're worlds apart. It was like that was like the best line for this show to define it all. Just there's all, even if we don't like each other, we think differently, we're all trying to get to the same place. We're all there for each other. So that was really well done. And like I said, man, the character design with everybody. I think my favorite to watch visually was Heimerdinger, because he's just such an adorable character, so smart. Definitely like the Yoda-esque character of this entire show. And like just the way they did the hairs and everything on it, it looked very, like you said, like a painting, but also looked so organic. It was just, man, I can't praise the animation enough. This show needs to get like plastered everywhere, just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree on the animation aspect. Everybody even with their own like designs and the world design, like you mentioned, that whole steampunk look that sort of changes into like that hyper glossy, like not realistic, a futuristic tech that we see once hex tech gets involved. Just visually, all that like represented like this sort of progress that we see this show with all this technology and magic being introduced to this world. And yeah, I mean, like the overall theme, or at least the thing that I think about, like that the sort of phrase that sort of encapsulates sort of a lot of the things that happen in the show, is the road to hell is paved with good intentions, where every character, on their own singular personal level, is like is making choices that they feel is going to progress either their storyline or the overall society of Piltover / Zon, where everyone's making decisions they think is for their greater good, but sort of losing sight of the effect that's really having on other people. What we see with the higher council and Piltover just sort of like stepping over Zon, that class divide between the two. And of course with Jinx, with all the decisions that she makes, with the good intention of wanting to help people, but it just not really working out the way she wants to. And then with Jace and Victor, when their technological advancements gets twisted into something that they didn't really intend. Just yeah, it's just really great thematic storytelling with all these characters. And I just thought they just really nailed that by the end of the season. Even with Ambessa, who was, this like overall, like at the end, by the end of the show, sort of like a villain, where she has the intention of like wanting to like protect, herself and her daughter and stuff, but just stepping over everybody in the process. It's just, man, really good through line from the beginning to end. And yeah, it's just nothing I can say more about that. Just really, really great character work, and tying all that into the wider narrative was really good. And yeah, the just the animation just supports that all the way through.
Yeah, like I remember I was texting you saying, man, like Jinx is one of the best villains ever written. And it's like, no, like I was gonna say Mbessa, she is the like one of the best villains because you understand her motives, even though most of them are like bullshit, really. Where she kept saying, "Oh, it's all about family. Like, oh, I'm all. That's what I would kill the world for us." It's like, no, you wouldn't. You would destroy the world for your own namesake, like your own glory. And everything she did, she just constantly was pulling strings, causing conflict. Back to like just totally manipulating everyone like little puppets. Just fantastic work. And her design too, like she was massive, she was she's like gorgeous but also just ferocious at the same time. Definitely not a character to be messed with, and not a typical like I feel like sometimes when they do female villains, they're very it's kind of one or the other. It's kind of like super masculine or super feminine. She was a good blend of both. I feel like a very well-rounded character. And yeah, like I said, I really like the character work on that. And again, the design with everything, with the city and everybody's clothing and the weapons and stuff in the show, definitely could see like where the video game aspect comes into play a little bit. Again, just I can't really praise that enough. It was mostly just the storytelling animation that I was like, yeah, this is one of the best shows I've seen in a while.
Mm-hmm. And to piggyback off of your point where you were saying that your favorite animation was like Heimerdinger and everything they did with him, for me it was definitely Jinx. I think Jinx for me in terms of the animation, it felt like that's where Studio Fortiche was really like in their bag. Where we get a lot of these like mix of like 2D and 3D graphics, all the different like words and lettering that we see. With like her inner like monologue where she's going through her like psychosis, all of that like visually was just really, really great, and just a feast for the eyes. Where it's like it really gives you what the inner workings of her mind is like, but just expressed visually for all of us to see. And in her moments with Echo, the two scenes that we get with her, where they fight in the first season, and then their dance in that alternate universe in the second season, just it really felt just like, man, this is just really, really gorgeous stuff. Again, the mix of the 2D and the 3D and all the like extra graphics that we get, it just really felt like, man, this is you can tell this is what this is the part they loved working on the most. It's just, for me, it worked so well. It was great to see.
Yeah, and like thinking about it too, this is one of the few shows, like, again, it's only 2 seasons with 9 episodes each, so be kind of hard to do it. But amazingly, some shows do, where it's like, even with short seasons, there's always like 1 or 2 episodes. Majority of the time, there's always 1 or 2 episodes that just aren't great. Like, what was the point of this? I did not feel that way with this. Like, every episode had some context to the greater story and the characters' motivations. So, like how you brought back like their fight in the beginning, and then also that alternate episode. It was definitely like planting this, like everything has a payoff, in my opinion. I think my favorite episode personally was Warwick, just like his POV and finding I forgot the doctor's name, but just like the blood hunt kind of thing. It was very horror-esque episode, so that was really cool. And just the ending, like if you're gonna go all out to finish off a series, that was the definition of it. I'm sorry, I can't talk right now, but yeah, just all the colors, the designs, like what Echo was doing with his little time machine duffel bag. That thing was so sick. Like,
Yeah.
Oh my god, I had so much fun with the last one. I was
It's
just
a,
like, I was like, God dang it, just let's get to it. I don't, this is teasing me, but it did such a great job with it, man.
it's always fun to see like different creatives work with the time loop like mechanic. That mechanic with like yeah his little I forgot the name of the tech that he used, but the Z drive or something like that.
Yeah,
But yeah,
or
just the
X
way
Drive,
they
I think one of those two.
something like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
but the way they visualized the time loop aspect of it was just really cool.
yeah. Again, man, like I think story wise, everything had great pacing for the most part. Some of it, the time jumps did throw me off a little bit here and there. So you kind of had to put the pieces. Like there are definitely some aspects of the plot and episodes you kind of had to piece together for yourself. But I think they're very minor to where like it's it doesn't break the story in any way. It just kind of makes you think like, oh, what could have happened? Should have they have done this? And to each their own on that. I didn't mind them personally, but um, yeah, like and there are rumors that they are doing spin-offs of it again, way more open to it after this. And yeah, Netflix just needs to keep killing it with their animation game really, because I think that's because some of their most of their live action stuff ain't cutting it. So, you know.
Yeah, definitely not to this level for sure. But yeah, I do agree that there were some pacing things here and there, and a little bit in the first season too, but a little bit more prevalent here in season two, where there was a lot more time skips, where it was a little jarring to sort of like keep track of, like you mentioned, character motivations, where it's like, oh wait, what happened here? Like I felt like we missed a scene or two or something, but after a little while, you kind of like recalibrate. So I did have that issue a couple of times, but like you said, nowhere near enough to sort of like knock it down a level for me. It was just a little bit just sort of like getting my footing again, especially with how breakneck the pace is with the show. Yeah, it seems like all these episodes are so jam packed with story and like character moments, where it feels like a lot more happened, in each episode than usually does in a series. These are like 40 minutes each, and sometimes it feels like you get an hour or two of content just shoved in them, even from the first season. I would say that's sort of a thing that sort of was prevalent throughout this whole series. But yeah, it was just a lot of great stuff in there, so it wasn't ever really a bother to me.
No. Yeah, like I said, I just the first three episodes, I think, or at least the first couple, when they were like younger and stuff. I guess I was just trying to focus on who's who and what's going on with it, so that stuff kind of threw me off at first. But then again, once we get to the first time jump of like them being adults, that's when it was a lot easier to follow, and you could definitely pick up on who's doing what. So, yeah, man. I mean, anything else that you wanted to highlight in this show? You know what? The only thing I will complain about is the use of the Imagine Dragons song as the intro. 'Cause I don't mind the Imagine Dragons, but I feel like once they have a hit, they get overplayed to the point where I'm like, dude, I don't need to hear this anymore.
They do.
I hear it all the time, especially working in retail, like when they were really big, like 10 years ago. Holy crap! That some of their songs was like no matter on nonstop, and I was like, God, stop playing it, please.
What were your feelings on the music video moments that we get in a lot of these episodes, where it's just like a minute or two of just a song and like no real dialogue and just like visuals? Did you like those, or did you feel like it overstayed its welcome? I don't know how you felt about that.
To be honest, no. I think those were actually some interesting scenes in which they're giving you like a break of like, okay, this is almost like a way to shut your brain off, like not look for dialogue. You're just kind of enjoying the visuals. And also some of them, especially in season 2, like with the aftermath from the first season, I think part 1, you definitely those kind of like little montage scenes, like the music and just the characters going through, I think definitely set the stage of like, this is the current state of everything. So keep that in mind while you're going forward. So I personally didn't mind them. I don't think they overstayed their welcome. Yeah. I'm sure how some people could make that argument, but like you said, there's so much storytelling. Sometimes it's nice to just kind of take a break and just enjoy the visuals for a little bit.
Yeah, for me, I did like a lot of those moments. Just I like it takes a little bit of time to breathe and just kind of give you just some really cool visual stuff. And it felt like they really experimented a lot in those moments. So I did enjoy that. I think the only one that I didn't like was the one in the first season where Imagine Dragons is in the show and they're singing and they have like a little concert. That was the only one.
That
for
one
me.
I was like, okay, that part I was like, okay, this is a little much.
a little
Like
bit
we already
much.
have the song in the intro. We don't need it in the show again. Like stop pushing Imagine Dragons on us. We get it. They're cool, but not that cool. So that was a good one. I'm glad you reminded me of that because I was watching. I was like, huh. I guess that's kind of neat, but at the same time, like a little extra. Like didn't need it, but okay, cool. I guess.
And then the only other little like nitpick I have, again, it's a very nit of picks. It's just Vander being a constant villain that they fought in the last like few episodes. It was like it felt like we had seen that a lot, already by that point. I thought the prison fight was really good, and I thought the first fight that Jinx and Vi have with him, when they sort of it culminates in that like sort of beautiful moment between all of them. It felt like that was enough, and him coming back to be like another big villain at the end of the series. It just felt like a little bit too much, repeated itself. I think. Again, very nitpicky.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of the bummer with that character. Like, I think it was just a little too depressing to do that because they did love him. He was their father, essentially. And for him to go from, like, standing up for him, then being, Beauty and the Beast / Werewolf in London character, and then to just being a giant, like, godlike enforcer, it was just like, okay, they overused it a little too much. So I could see that. Just because that episode when they had their subway, like their underground fight, and they all became a family again, that was one of the best moments of like, what are you waiting for? He's your dad too. I was like, damn it, like trying to break the dam. It's not gonna break, but this is just it hurt the feels. But I definitely see that. That's a very valid critique that they kind of overused his character in the end. Like I think it was fine if we just left it off that way and he died or something, but it's fine, but it's already done with, so not a huge thing, but I understand what you mean.
Yeah, again, that was the only like part that was like, oh, okay, like, but we've done this already a few times. But everything they did with Ambessa and then Victor at the end was really interesting. I think it sort of carried that last episode or two for me.
Yeah, and I think the last thing I'll finish up on was just giving props to Jinx's character and her little machines and stuff, her tinkering with like some of the weapons she had. It was just very, very fun stuff, very Joker-esque. But yeah, I like I said, I think the characters and animation are the reasons why to watch this show, along with the storytelling, obviously. But
on all those three elements, they just absolutely nailed it, which you need to do for an animated series.
Yeah, after I finish up a couple shows, I think I may revisit this soon because I just was like, I want to go through this journey again, see if I missed anything. But anything else aside from the Magic Dragons that we want to talk about for this video?
I mean, just the other aspects of the music were really good. I thought the score for the show was really great, and all the different needle drops that they had throughout the series. That wasn't always Imagine Dragons, but the one they dropped it was really cool. A lot of really cool stuff. Again, the audio visual splendor of the show just was very giving.
Absolutely. Yeah, so that's basically it from us. It's a hard 5 out of 5. We loved a good amount of this. So for those of you who have watched all of this show, I know we're all bummed about it being finished up. Please let us know in the comments what you thought was your favorite aspect, what maybe you think they could have done better. We love to keep that conversation going, getting your thoughts on it. But yeah, now that Thanksgiving's over, we're in the last month of the year essentially. So some good stuff coming up, and again another year of ranting with all of you. But until next time, everyone, stay bodacious and just keep on ranting for us.
Absolutely, everybody. Be good, be safe, and as always, we'll catch y'all on the next one.